The asteroid belt glittered like broken glass against the black of space, but to Commander Xyrix Kale it was nothing more than scenery. He stood on the bridge of his cruiser, hands folded behind his back, watching human freighters scatter like frightened fish. Their engines flared desperate blue as they tried to run, and one by one, his ships gutted them with surgical beams. The screams over the intercepted comms were almost tiresome. Xyrix tilted his head slightly, listening, then dismissed the noise with a curl of his lip. "Too easy," he muttered, his voice carrying the bored resonance of someone who had won the same game too many times. The bridge officers chuckled politely. One of them leaned closer. "Humans are consistent, Commander. They cling to their little machines, their pitiful outposts. And every time they break." Xyrix let the words hang. His gaze lingered on the drifting wreckage, pieces of steel, and shattered lives. To him, humans were a curiosity, nothing more. Primitive, fragile, noisy. Their ships screamed through space with chemical engines, their weapons were relics, their courage misplaced. And yet, somehow they persisted. He had raided half a dozen human colonies over the last cycle, and though the battles never challenged him, there was always something faintly irritating in the way they resisted. Like insects that refused to die cleanly. A bored sigh escaped his chest. Mark their coordinates. Salvage anything useful. Then set course for the inner sphere. The officers obeyed without question. The bridge dimmed as tactical holoscreens updated, mapping their next target. Among the glowing symbols floated a strange anomaly, an island in the middle of Earth's oceans, shielded by storms that satellites never penetrated. It had recently flared with energy signatures. To Xyrix, it looked like another half-hearted human attempt at survival. He squinted at the data and smirked. "Celestial Island," he said, tasting the words. "How dramatic. Burn it to the ground. Whatever they're hiding won't last." The crew stirred, amused. To them, Earth was just another planet marked for eventual subjugation. The humans had spread thin, leaving scraps of defenses scattered like bones. This so-called island was a distraction, nothing more. The fleet descended hours later, cutting through the veil of Earth's atmosphere. Clouds tore apart around them. Lightning danced across hulls as they broke into clear sky. Below, the celestial island rose from the ocean like the spine of some ancient beast, jagged cliffs encircled by storms that never relented. Xyrix felt the familiar thrill of conquest, though it was dulled by routine. He leaned on the rail of the viewing deck, eyes narrowing. "Send in the forward craft. Crush whatever resistance remains," he ordered. Scout ships dove. Alien interceptors cut across the sky, trailing plasma trails. The first bombardments roared down, scorching the cliffside. Rock splintered, smoke billowed, waves frothed against the island's base. The crew waited for the expected panicked response, humans screaming, rushing with antiquated jets, guns flashing uselessly. But none came. For a moment, the island seemed silent. Only the hiss of rain and the crackle of alien fire. Xyrix's brow furrowed. He disliked silence. It meant something unseen. Then a thunderclap louder than any storm. From carved openings in the cliffs, shadows streaked outward. Sleek, black shapes, hugging the air so tightly they seemed almost part of it. Jets, yes, but not like any Xyrix had encountered before. They moved with predatory grace, engines screaming past the sound barrier, bodies glinting with an alloy the scanners couldn't parse. Within seconds they climbed, flipped, and struck. One alien scout ship erupted in a bloom of fire, torn clean through by a railgun slug too fast for sensors to register. Another spiraled into the sea, wings sheared off by precision fire. The bridge filled with startled shouts as tactical displays warped into chaos. They're jets," one officer stammered, disbelief cutting through his professionalism. "Human jets." "Impossible," another snapped. "Primitive aircraft can't." A third explosion silenced him. The first wave of supersonic fighters cut through the alien formation with surgical fury, weaving between plasma bolts as though they anticipated them. Their speed broke sound again and again, leaving behind rippling shockwaves that rattled Xyrix's cruiser. On the bridge, the crew faltered. Their laughter had died, replaced by the taut silence of men and women seeing the impossible. Xyrix's jaw tightened. He leaned forward, eyes locked on the black-winged craft carving through his formation. "Not primitive," he whispered, though no one else caught it. The second wave arrived, another squadron, diving low from cloud cover. Alien interceptors scrambled to meet them, but their movements were sluggish in comparison. A duel began in the skies over Celestial Island, alien ships with plasma firepower against human jets that danced like blades of wind. For every human fighter lost, and only a handful fell, 3 alien craft dropped from skies, their wreckage trailing flames into the sea. Xyrix's officers looked to him for reassurance, but he gave none. His crimson eyes narrowed as the realization sank deeper. This was no accident, no desperate human improvisation. It was a trap, a design. Still, pride stiffened his voice. They're fast, skilled, but they bleed. Press the advantage. Surround them. His orders went out. Squadrons surged forward. The ocean lit with fire and thunder, the sky painted in burning contrails. But even as numbers pressed, the human jets refused to be cornered. They sliced through formations, broke apart, reformed with uncanny precision. Their pilots were invisible, their tactics unnervingly precise. One alien officer slammed a hand against his console. "Commander, these aren't ordinary humans. They're machines." Xyrix cut him off with a glare. Machines are nothing without the will behind them. But as another interceptor fell in a trail of smoke, he felt the weight of doubt claw at his certainty. Machines or not, humans had always been underestimated. They had been insects beneath his boots. Now, as a railgun slug shredded another of his craft, Xyrix felt, for the first time, the flicker of unease. He exhaled slowly, the smirk that had once curved his mouth, now flattened into something harder. He muttered under his breath, not for his officers, not even for the record, just for himself. "What are we dealing with?" The storm outside howled louder, as though the island itself answered him. The sky over Celestial Island burned with the wreckage of alien ships, their flames reflected in the ocean below. The storm had not abated, lightning still split the heavens, but now the flashes mingled with the sharper glow of detonations. Commander Xyrix Kale stood rigid on his command deck, listening to the flood of panicked reports from his squadrons. Each voice carried disbelief. Their sensors could not track the human jets. Their plasma bolts seemed too slow. Their formations crumbled under strikes too precise to predict. He wanted to believe this was an aberration, some freak moment of fortune for the humans. But in his chest, unease coiled into something colder. "Reform the interceptors. I want overlapping fire." "They are fast, not untouchable," he barked, his voice clipped and colder than before. His officers scrambled to obey, though none dared look him in the eye. They could sense what he did not voice. The arrogance of their earlier laughter was gone, replaced by a silence that trembled on the edge of fear. The holoscreen brightened suddenly, painting the bridge with shifting blue. An audio feed crackled to life, breaking through the alien comms. For a moment, static filled the air, then a voice, steady, calm, human, spoke. "This is Admiral Reeve, commanding Celestial Island Defense. Your fleet has violated Earth's sovereign skies. You will disengage, or you will be destroyed." The words were delivered with no heat, no boast. Just an even cadence that carried an authority Xyrix found jarring. There was no desperation, no pleading, only certainty. For a heartbeat, he felt as though the human commander spoke not from weakness, but from a position of control. He gritted his teeth. "Patch me through," he snapped. His crew hesitated. This was unorthodox, but obeyed. Xyrix stepped forward, his shadow long against the glowing map of Earth. "You presume much, human," he said, his tone deliberately slow, mocking. "Your machines may sting, but you are insects. We will grind your island into ash." There was a pause. The human's reply came like a scalpel. "If we are insects, then tell me, Commander, why do your ships fall like leaves in the storm?" The bridge crew flinched, some averting their eyes. Xyrix's hands tightened behind his back, his claws biting into his palms. He had expected fear. Instead, he was met with calm defiance that cut deeper than any weapon. He cut the transmission before his composure slipped further, turning sharply toward the tactical display. On the screens, the jets wheeled in formations too precise to be improvised. They worked like parts of a machine, one fighter drawing enemy fire, while another cut through the exposed flank, always anticipating, always striking where it hurt most. Xyrix realized then that this was no desperate militia. It was a force prepared, a trap sprung with mathematical precision. "How long have they been waiting for us?" he murmured, though no one dared answer. Far below, within the storm-wrapped cliffs of Celestial Island, Admiral Reeve stood in the command chamber, eyes fixed on the holographic table projecting the battle above. He was a tall man, shoulders squared with the weariness of someone who had spent decades planning for a day no one else had wanted to believe in. Around him, young officers monitored feeds, their fingers darting across controls, voices crisp with practiced urgency. Squadron Delta reporting 3 confirmed kills, minimal damage, one called. Gamma holding altitude. Requesting permission to push interceptors toward the western flank, another added. Reeve gave the faintest nod. Approved. Keep their attention. Make them think the west is open. Alpha Squadron will close the trap. His tone was quiet, measured. He never raised his voice. The room held no time for dramatics, only execution. Still, beneath his calm exterior, he felt the strain. Every pilot up, there was a life balanced on the razor's edge. He had drilled them, trained them, demanded of them more than any sane commander should, and now they delivered. Yet he knew the price. Some would not come back. He carried that weight silently, for if he faltered even once, the island's secret, the world's secret, would be undone. A young officer at his side shifted nervously. "Sir, the alien flagship is holding position. They're studying us." Reeves' gaze did not waver from the display. "Good. Let them look. The more they watch, the more they realize they are not facing prey." Outside, the jets screamed through the storm again, engines cutting across thunder as if to challenge the gods themselves. Their sleek designs were the culmination of years of hidden development, alloys resistant to plasma burns, engines capable of speeds once thought impossible in atmosphere, weapons guided by predictive algorithms. They were born from humanity's long habit of preparing for the worst, even when peace seemed near. In one cockpit, Lieutenant Arya Cole clenched the stick tighter, her breath misting the inside of her helmet. Her jet curved sharply, pulling her ribs against the force. An alien interceptor loomed on her sensors, and she rolled into its blind spot before releasing a slug from her railgun. The weapon fired without flame or noise, but the alien ship burst apart in midair, fragments spinning into the sea. She exhaled sharply, a half-formed laugh escaping her lips. Fear had sharpened into something else, focus, exhilaration. Her calm crackled. "Nice shot, Cole. Don't get cocky." "Not cocky," she shot back, her grin hidden beneath her visor. "Just alive." Alive. That word carried weight. Every second in the sky was a stolen second, a chance to fight for something larger than herself. She thought of her brother, lost during the first alien raids years ago, and pressed her jet harder into the battle. Above, Xyrix watched another of his interceptors vanish in fire. His jaw clenched. Reports streamed in, casualties mounting, losses unacceptable. He had expected conquest, not a war. Yet he could not retreat. Not yet. His pride, and the eyes of the High Council, demanded victory. "Concentrate fire on their lead squadron," he barked, his voice edged with steel. "We will cut off the head and scatter the rest." But even as he spoke, a new formation of jets surged from the clouds, diving directly toward his cruiser's flank. Their movement was surgical, not reckless, an attack that had been planned long before this day. He realized too late that the humans had not merely reacted. They had orchestrated. Alarms blared as rail slugs tore through shielding, scraping along armor. His officers shouted, scrambling for control. Xyrix gripped the railing tighter, his knuckles pale against the dim glow. This was no spontaneous resistance. This was readiness. This was humanity waiting, patient and cold, for their enemy to make the fatal mistake. Through the chaos, Admiral Reeves' voice returned over open comms. It was calm as before, even softer now, almost pitying. "Commander, this is not your conquest. It is your warning." The words cut through the storm, through the bridge's panic, straight into Xyrix's chest. He stared at the screens, at the elegant arcs of human jets carving his fleet apart, and for the first time in his long career, he understood the taste of uncertainty. The battle raged on, but beneath the thunder and fire, a quieter war had begun, the unraveling of an empire's certainty. Xyrix's smirk was gone, his laughter silenced. All that remained was the sharp, gnawing realization that he might have walked his fleet into a snare set with infinite patience. Xyrix Kale had always considered himself immune to fear. Commanders of his rank were raised from childhood to believe in their own superiority, sculpted into blades sharpened by victory after victory. Yet, as he sat alone in the dim chamber of his flagship, the silence pressed heavier than the roar of battle ever had. Before him, a dozen screens glowed with human war footage dredged from intercepted archives. He had demanded context, history, explanation. What he found unsettled him more than the jets. On one screen, soldiers in gray trenches clawed through mud while shells rained overhead, fire consuming the earth itself. On another, cities collapsed in a storm of firebombs, entire skylines erased in nights of ceaseless flame. Then came the image that silenced even his inner voice, a single detonation over a city, a light brighter than a star, followed by a mushroom cloud that climbed into the heavens like a pillar of judgment. The human voiceover, crackling with the rough tone of old broadcasts, explained it plainly. Nuclear. The word lodged deep in Xyrix's mind. He leaned closer, claws resting against the console. Humanity had turned its violence inward for millennia, yet they survived it. Their history was not one of peace punctuated by war. It was war punctuated by brief moments of peace. Every age of their existence was marked by bloodshed, every innovation bent toward conflict, every culture scarred, yet resilient. It horrified him, but a reluctant admiration twisted through the fear. His people had grown complacent, softened by centuries of dominance. The humans had grown sharp by surviving their own cruelty. "Commander," a voice interrupted, pulling him back. His second officer stood in the doorway, uncertain. "The High Council demands a report. They are impatient." Xyrix straightened, the mask of control returning to his features, though his chest felt heavier than ever. "Patch me through." Moments later, the faces of the council filled the chamber, their eyes glimmering with arrogance that had once been his own. They leaned forward in their seats, expectant, hungry for reassurance. "Xyrix," one said smoothly, "we've heard troubling reports of resistance. You will confirm that these are exaggerated." His throat tightened. He should lie, preserve their image of invulnerability. But the images of nuclear fire burned too brightly behind his eyes. He spoke carefully, each word measured. "The humans are not what we believed. Their island was a fortress, their aircraft beyond expectation. Our fleet has sustained significant losses." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. Some laughed, dismissing it as temporary misfortune. Others sneered at his tone, accusing him of exaggerating to mask incompetence. One, older and sharper than the rest, leaned forward, her voice quiet but piercing. "Are you saying the humans are dangerous?" Xyrix met her gaze. "I am saying they are prepared. They knew we would come, and they have been waiting." The silence that followed was brief, but it was enough. He saw the denial tighten on some faces, fear flicker on others. His warning cut into their certainty, even if they refused to admit it. "They are primitives," one counselor snapped. "Jets and bombs. Childish tools. Do not cloak your failure in myth." Xyrix's jaw clenched, but he held his voice steady. "Primitives do not carve apart an advanced fleet with surgical efficiency. Primitives do not plan traps that bleed us. These humans understand war more intimately than we ever have." The council erupted again, shouting over one another. Some demanded retreat, others demanded escalation, all blinded by pride or fear. Xyrix muted the channel, letting their arguments fade into silence. He had given them the truth. Whether they listened was beyond him. He turned back to the battle reports. Losses mounted, yet the humans fought with chilling precision, their discipline unshaken. It wasn't just their machines, it was their will. He felt it pressing against him, the same calm certainty in Admiral Reeves' voice that lingered in his mind. Not boasting, not desperation, just inevitability. Far below, within the cliffs of Celestial Island, Admiral Reeve leaned on the railing of the operations deck, shoulders heavy with fatigue. The battle had shifted in their favor, but he knew it was far from over. His pilots, brave as they were, had been stretched thin. Fuel reserves dwindled, ammunition stocks ran low. He saw the numbers on the reports and felt each one, like a stone, added to his chest. Lieutenant Arya Cole stumbled into the room, helmet tucked under her arm, flight suit scorched along one sleeve. Her hair was damp with sweat, her breathing ragged. She snapped a salute, though her hand trembled. "Permission to rejoin the fight, sir," she said, voice raw but steady. Reeves' eyes softened, though his reply was firm. "You've done more than enough, Cole. Get medical attention." Her jaw tightened, a flicker of frustration in her eyes. "With respect, Admiral, if I can still stand, I can still fly. We all can. None of us came here expecting to survive." The words cut him deeper than any alien threat. He saw in her the spirit he had both relied upon and feared, humanity's refusal to yield, even when the cost was unbearable. He wanted to tell her she was wrong, that survival mattered, that they fought not to die bravely, but to live. But he also knew the truth. If she didn't go back up, someone else would fall in her place. "Get patched up," he said quietly. "Then I'll see you in the skies again." She nodded once sharp and left. He watched her go, a mixture of pride and sorrow knotting in his chest. The comms crackled again, alien frequencies intercepted. The voice of Zyrex Kale reached him, strained but unbroken. "Admiral Reeve, you fight well for a species so young, but you cannot hold forever. Your jets will fall. Your island will drown." Reeve answered without hesitation. "Perhaps. But understand this, Commander. We built this place not to survive you, but to show you what awaits if you push further. This island is a mirror, Zyrex. Look into it and see your Empire's future." The channel cut, leaving silence behind. Zyrex sat frozen, the words digging deeper than he wanted to admit. A mirror. He thought of the Council's bickering, their arrogance, their refusal to see. He thought of the humans' unyielding discipline, their history of surviving themselves. He thought of the fire blooming across the sky. For the first time, doubt hollowed out the core of his certainty. He had mocked the humans as insects, yet here they were, teaching him fear. He wondered distantly if the Council would ever grasp it in time, or if their empire was already too blind to save itself. The storm outside raged on, thunder and flame mingling until the sky itself seemed to tremble. And in the silence of his own thoughts, Zyrex realized something that chilled him far more than defeat in battle. The humans were only just beginning to reveal what they were capable of. The storm over Celestial Island had swollen into a furious cyclone, its wind shrieking like an ancient chorus, its lightning lashing sea and sky alike. Amid that chaos, the final stage of the battle took form. Alien carriers descended in disciplined lines, vast silhouettes blotting out the stars, while their interceptors swarmed ahead in a churning cloud of fire and steel. For all their numbers, there was desperation in their precision. Commander Zyrex Kale stood rigid on the bridge of his flagship, his posture unyielding, though his eyes betrayed the pressure. He had told himself this would be the moment he redeemed his earlier failure, yet doubt gnawed with every flicker of flame that marked another fallen craft. Below, Admiral Reeve adjusted his collar with weary hands, fatigue etched into his every movement. He leaned forward over the tactical map, the projections painting his weathered face in pale light. The battle had dragged them all to the edge of endurance. Ammunition was thin, pilots stretched beyond human limits, yet his voice carried calm authority. "Deploy the final wave. Delta and Gamma squadrons hold the flanks. Alpha, cut through their center when the rail cannons fire. No hesitation." "Sir," a young officer began, hesitation flickering across her face, "if the cannons misfire in this storm." "Then we fall," Reeve finished quietly. He did not raise his voice, but the weight of his words stilled the room. But hesitation costs more lives than storms. Up in the roiling clouds, Lieutenant Arya Cole guided her jet into formation, her fingers tightening around the stick until her knuckles blanched. The storm buffeted her craft, but her heart beat steadier than her trembling frame suggested. She had already stared death in the face tonight, and returned. Now, with her squadron at her side, she felt the fragile strength of unity. "Alpha Squadron in position," she reported, her voice steady though her throat burned with exhaustion. The alien interceptors struck first, streaks of plasma lancing through the dark. Arya twisted hard, her body pressed against the seat as the world blurred around her. Her wingman took the hit instead, his jet disintegrating in a flare of fire. She bit down a cry, rolling back into formation, fury sharpening into focus. She whispered his name once, a promise, before diving again. From the cliffs, Earth's hidden rail cannons thundered to life, their slugs invisible until impact. The first tore through the shielding of an alien carrier, the second ripped its spine apart, sending the behemoth spiraling into the sea. The ocean rose in a tower of steam and fire as the wreck vanished beneath the waves. On Zyrex's bridge, officers recoiled at the impact. "Carrier destroyed. Shields ineffective," one shouted, panic creeping into his tone. Zyrex slammed a fist against the railing, the sound echoing like a gavel. "Hold formation. Press forward. We will break them by sheer weight if we must." Yet even as he barked the command, he felt the lie in his own words. Weight alone meant nothing against Wilhone by survival. Admiral Reeve gave the order, his voice softer than the storm. "Alpha Squadron now." Aria's jet screamed forward, breaking sound once more, her squadron fanning out like blades, unsheathed. They cut into the alien formation with surgical precision, tearing holes for the rail slugs to follow. Alien ships ruptured one after another, their plasma fire scattering like sparks in the wind. Each kill came at a cost. Reeves' map filled with red where blue had once held, but the formation held, the line did not break. Through the chaos, Xyrix stared at the holographic map of his fleet disintegrating piece by piece. His claws dug into his palms until blood welled, but he could not look away. This was not the crushing of insects. This was the slow, deliberate dismantling of an empire's illusion of invincibility. The humans had set the trap, sprung it with precision, and now executed its final stroke with merciless calm. He heard Reeves' earlier words echoing again. This is not your conquest. It is your warning. On the deck of the command center, Reeve exhaled, his shoulders sagging slightly as reports poured in. Enemy carriers destroyed, interceptors scattered, command structure collapsing. Yet there was no smile, no surge of triumph. His gaze lingered on the tally of fallen pilots, on names that would never answer roll call again. He felt the bitterness of victory heavy on his tongue. "Signal the alien flagship," he said finally. Moments later, Xyrix's face filled the comm screen, his expression carved in granite. Smoke and sparks filled the background of his bridge, officers darting behind him like shadows of defeat. Reeve regarded him without malice, only weary certainty. "It ends here, Commander. Surrender your fleet. Further resistance is waste." For a long moment, Xyrix said nothing. His pride warred with the truth burning in his chest. He had spent a lifetime believing in the Empire's supremacy, in his own unbreakable will. Yet he had seen the humans' history, heard their calm defiance, and now witnessed their relentless precision. To deny it further would not only doom his fleet, but blind him to the reality that lay before them all. "You could destroy us," Xyrix said at last, his voice low. "Why don't you?" Reeves' gaze held as steadily. "Because destruction is not the goal. You sought to dominate, Commander. We seek only to survive. But if survival demands control, then control we will take." The silence stretched, then Xyrix inclined his head, the smallest gesture of surrender, but one that carried the weight of generations. His officers froze, stunned, yet no one protested. The comm went dead. On Celestial Island, the storm began to thin, its thunder fading into the distance. The skies still burned with wreckage, but the battle was over. Arya guided her battered jet back toward the cliffs, exhaustion finally sinking into her bones. She thought of the pilots who had not returned and felt the hollow ache of their absence. Yet beneath it something else stirred, not joy, not even relief, but a grim pride. Humanity had not only survived. They had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. Admiral Reeves stood at the viewing deck, watching the last of the alien ships retreat into the clouds. He did not celebrate. Instead, he whispered to himself, words meant for no one but the ghosts that lingered in the storm. "We didn't want this war, but now it is ours, and it will change everything." In the silence that followed, both victor and vanquished understood the truth. The age of underestimating humanity was over. The galaxy itself would feel the weight of this night, and nothing would ever be the same again.